Welcome back to BNC Live. Here's that news about Jeopardy now. Earlier today, Sony announced Mike Richards is out as executive producer of Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune. This comes days after stepping down as host of that show, Jeopardy, of course. And now I'm joined by film and awards editor Clayton Davis from Variety. Always a pleasure having you. All right, Clayton, what is the latest in what seems to be a snowball of issues? I mean, the show never had so many issues before. It's like being tainted.
I know. Just before we get into it, can we just say Alex Trebek is looking down, just like rubbing his head, like, I left you guys for 2 seconds, and all this is going on and unraveling. And he was in this role for so long. Mm-hmm. Mike Richards is out as executive producer. He was fired. Michael Davies, who executive produces Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, under his Embassy Row shingle, which is based at Sony. He's going to take over the production duties temporarily. This was announced in a memo to the staff today. Mike Richards is out after his controversial comments and past allegations, and lawsuits from 2010 and 2011 regarding The Price is Right came to surface. It took 9 days for this man to just fall from whatever grace he had on the show. And this just comes back to the moment, you have to be aware of this moment that we're in right now at this time. And this is not quote unquote cancel culture. This is consequence culture. Not everything that you do from the past is swept under the rug, and people are having a reckoning now.
Yeah. Okay. So when is the season supposed to begin? And as you mentioned during the commercial break, he already filmed 5 shows. There's no way they're going to air those shows, right?
Yeah. So the show is scheduled to begin on September 13th. The season will begin on September 13th. Mike Richards has filmed 5 episodes. There was no mention of his episodes airing during that time. Mayim Bialik, who was supposed to be the co-host with Mike Richards, has been tapped to temporarily serve as the host during this interim. However, I think now what we're going to see is that search for the new host, but also this reimagining possibly of Jeopardy. How do we make sure that something like this doesn't happen again? How do we keep Jeopardy fresh? Not just for millennials and the people who are nostalgic for the show, but invite that new generation to step in. It's a beloved quiz show. Like, a lot of people watch it, but morale's also low down there. Wheel of Fortune staffers, insiders tell Variety sources that they've been in the dark. They didn't know what was going on until the memo dropped today. So a lot of people, they're not being as forthright. It doesn't seem like they're being as forthright or open or transparent in this search or what was going on.
But that's not uncommon, though. You know how the business is. That's not uncommon. We don't know things. Usually once it hits the fan, that's when it trickles down to the people on the low end. You know what I mean? But are they still hating on my boy LeVar Burton? Why can't they just choose him? I mean, it just seems so right.
I mean, listen, it's the fan favorite. Everyone wants LeVar Burton, and I'm sure there are probably internal discussions about, can we actually bring in LeVar Burton? I'm not privy to those conversations, but my suggestion is start back at ground zero. If it is LeVar Burton, great, but if it's not, really think about how do you want Jeopardy to look for the next 20, 30 years? Alex Trebek was in that role for such a long time, was a staple, a beloved figure in that realm. And you have an opportunity now to keep the Jeopardy legacy moving, but you have to think about it thoughtfully and then do it with compassion and thinking about those people that are watching at home that love the show so much. Keep it familiar, but keep it fresh.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, my last question, and then we got to wrap. Do we go with someone more straight-laced, or do we bring in like a comedian? I don't know, bring in Cedric the Entertainer and just call it a day.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, it's interesting because now we're in this moment of an oversaturation of media television. I mean, broadcast networks are hurting regardless at the moment. So how do you bring the show back to, those numbers that it was seeing, when Alex Trebek was hosting these final years? Is it a big name that draws people in? Is it someone that's so left field that it kind of just throws everyone off and they want to see how this could look. Maybe it is a comedian, but you also have to be sharp, and that job is hard. I always say it's underplayed how hard that job is, and they have to make sure they find the right person.
Absolutely. All right. I know you got some tea for us. Can you drop some of it? Just spill a little bit.
I don't have any tea on Jeopardy. I really don't. Listen, at this point, I'm for them just tapping Will Ferrell, have him reprise his SNL Alex Trebek, and people will watch that. I don't know what is happening there in terms of discussions. I just know there have been a lot of names thrown out, and I would assume that new names will come to the surface in the coming weeks.
All right. And nothing as of yet. I mean, this guy just got the boot and there's no host lined up. There has to be somebody on the table.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Mayim Bialik's going to be in that role for quite some time. For by some time, the next few months at minimum. So maybe she kills it so much that they just give her the gig. I really don't know, but I know Mayim Bialik was being tapped early on before the discussion started that she would be involved in the show in some way. So maybe this just elevates her to a more permanent position. But I don't know if that's necessarily what excites the fans. I don't know if that's what they want. So again, the conversation between consumers and executives are often two different things, and you need someone to translate between the two.
Totally. Clayton Davis from Variety. Thank you. Always a pleasure.